When you read this headline, you knew that ESPN was not going to let Shannon Sharpe come back. As soon as Shannon Sharpe settled the lawsuit, the $50 million lawsuit that he had with Gabriella Zuniga, as soon as he settled it, before he settled it, when it became a headline, you knew ESPN and Disney wasn't about to allow that man back in the building. We talked about this when it first broke. Stephen A. Smith talked about it. Shannon Sharpe has talked about it, his firing. The whole internet is talking about it. I seen Meek Mill put up something. Meek Mill said, y'all too old to be getting fired. I don't even know what that means. But on this live stream, we're going to break down this whole situation. I'm going to let you guys hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say in reaction to this whole thing and this whole situation. I'm going to let you hear Shannon Sharpe's response. And when you read this headline from TMZ Sports, Shannon Sharpe out. Just read it for how they framed it. Shannon Sharpe out at ESPN after settling RAPE lawsuit. The last 3 words of that, or 4 words of that, after settling RAPE lawsuit. You settled a lawsuit for this. Even if he would have won the lawsuit, even if he would have been in a situation where, he proved that it didn't happen or whatever, which I believe that Shannon Sharpe didn't do nothing like this to this girl. I think she just saw a sucker and licked it. Pause. And he was the sucker in the situation. But the headline, the way it reads, brand is so important to these companies. Brand should be important to all of us. But because of the headline, we knew it was going to be tough for him to come back. So we're going to get into this, man, as we break this topic down. We're going to start. I'm going to play Shannon Sharpe's response, and then we're going to play what Stephen A. Smith had to say about this situation. And we're going to get into all the other pieces of this because there's some other factors that I think played a part in it. Some things that happened at FS1 when Shannon Sharpe was working with Skip Bayless. People are saying that Skip Bayless is celebrating in this moment. The internet is also talking about how everybody that works with Stephen A. Smith ends up getting fired or going to jail. So we're going to talk about that too. And as we jump in this live stream, I just want to set the stage, the rules of the room. We got a poll in the chat. You guys vote in the poll. Let me know if you think Shannon Sharpe deserved to be fired. It's either a yes or a no. Do you think he deserved to be fired for this situation? And then after that, we're going to get into our little community hour where I'll read the chat. We jump into a little bit of a conversation back and forth and what we could learn from this situation as people that's just outside looking in, watching these situations. And we're going to break down the business side of these things because I never want you to come to a Will Evans live stream and walk away with nothing. I want you to walk away with something that you can apply to your life. And there's always lessons in these things. So we're going to get into it, man. We always start every live stream with a prayer. So we're going to start that way today. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you and come before you humbly, God. So grateful for another day. I ask that you bless everybody that's listening, everybody that's going to and from today. God, I ask that you give them traveling mercy, bless their loved ones, bless their children and their families. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, man. Let's start with what the internet. Look at this depiction. This is how they saying Stephen A. Smith is. This is Stephen A. Smith in a cop uniform. They saying he a snitch. He telling on everybody. He trying to get everybody. Now, in this situation, I genuinely believe that Stephen A. Smith wanted Shannon Sharpe to be there at ESPN. I think that Stephen A. kind of had the understanding that people framed him and perceived him a certain way. So he was looking at Shannon Sharpe to be his protege. I'm going to bring Shannon Sharpe over here. Even the way he talks about it when I play this for you guys, the way he talks about it was like, I wanted Shannon Sharpe to be my protege where I could get credit for his success almost. And so Shannon was up for this $100 million contract. The girl found that out, said, I'm suing for $50 million. And the sad thing is, Shannon Sharpe kind of just lost that. Like he not only did he have to pay this girl out, he lost the contract. He lost the money. So he has to go on and continue with Club Shay and continue with the Nightcap podcast that he got with Ocho and continue building his media company. But it hurts. Why does it hurt? Because if I was up for a $100 million contract outside of the money part, he doesn't have to work for his platform if he gets that money. The platform can now work for him. He can put people in position. He can go get more people like Bubba Dub, who he signed to his media company. He can go get more people like Ocho, who signed to his media company. If he gets that $100 million contract, he can kind of step back and become the network instead of having to be the talent on the network, which is a loss for him, right? So also hit that like button if you guys watching the live stream, wherever you're watching from. Let's try to keep the likes up to 50% of the people in the room. If we got 100 people watching, let's make sure 50 people hit that like button. He would have been in a position where he can give more opportunities. It allows him to become more of like the network would be. He would be the ESPN, and everybody else that he could have brought in would have been the Shannon Sharpes and Stephen A. Smiths with that kind of contract. His media company could have grown. He'd have had more platforms. And, you know, he could have had a different situation. Now, without that contract, not only does he have to pay this lawsuit out, but he also has to continue working for his platform as talent, which kind of sucks when you had the opportunity to move away from it. Now, some of us, we just like to work for our media platforms. Like I got 4 YouTube channels, 5 YouTube channels, you know, and I got different talent on each channel. But I still like to come on here and do these live streams with you guys because I enjoy it. I enjoy my work. So I'm not saying that he wouldn't have continued working, but it's nice to have the option to say, you know, I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to go on vacation. I know because I do it. So now he has to continue working for his platforms, which is kind of a, you know, bittersweet thing. Let's hear what Shannon Sharpe said in response to being fired by ESPN. Then we're going to get into what everybody's saying about Stephen A. Smith and what Stephen A. Smith said about this situation. Check this out. This is Shannon Sharpe when he got news of his firing. This is what he said in response. Uh-oh. 1 second, guys. Here we go.
I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week. And really, the only thing that I really ask is, like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really wanted to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family. I know this coming out will overshadow everything that he's worked his entire life for. And unfortunately, you know, it didn't happen that way. And so, as I told him, as I profusely apologized to him earlier today, he said, bro, stop apologizing. You don't have to apologize. I'm your big bro. I'm going to love you regardless. We all make mistakes. And he says, bro, I love you. So I'm done with this. You're done with it too. Move on. And I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. It gave me an opportunity to bring my audience that saw me really just grow. They saw me, you know, Lakers in 5, and they saw me say all these analogies that my grandparents gave me, and I was able to bring that to ESPN. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But I just wished, of all things, like I said, hey, they did what they felt they needed to do, and I'm at peace with that. But I just wish, guys, this thing could have waited until Monday, because I hate the fact that I'm overshadowing my brother, the first 2 brothers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this is what the headline's going to be for the next couple of days. So, bro, again, I know you told me this. I don't have to apologize, but I'm going to do it one final time tonight, and I won't apologize again. I'm sorry that I upstaged you in this manner. You know, that was never my intent. You've been my hero. You've been my role model from as long as I can remember. And I apologize, and I thank all my fans for supporting me when I was at ESPN and every place that I've been, be it Club Shay, Nightcap, Undisputed, ESPN. Thank you guys for your support. Now.
So that was Shannon Sharpe's response to being fired. He seems like, you know, it's more so about his family. You know how hard he worked. And if you've been watching Shannon Sharpe, you know how hard he advocated for his brother to be in the Hall of Fame. That's all he wanted. It sounded like for the last few years. He just said, just please look at the numbers. I remember him when he was working with Skip Bayless on Undisputed. He constantly said, man, I just want you guys to look at the numbers for my brother. Just take a look at it. Give him a chance. You know, he was the greatest at his time, yada, yada, yada. So it seems like, you know, he has a lot of disappointment in himself for that. We're going to talk about Stephen A. Smith, man. Stephen A. Smith is somebody that gets a lot of backlash because they go, oh, he's Uncle Tom. Oh, he's this, he's that. One thing you could say about Stephen A. Smith, you could say a lot of things about him, but one thing you can't take from him is that he can be trusted by these companies. He ain't gonna have no scandals. He ain't gonna mess up the money. He can be trusted. You give him a big contract, he gonna come up, show up to work, do his job. He might be a little arrogant. You know, he might walk around the NBA arenas like he a player, but he can be trusted when it comes to making that money. He can be trusted when it comes to showing up, defending the company, doing your job, representing the company the way they want him to represent them. So some of the backlash that he's getting, people are saying that he snitched on everybody he get around, or like everybody, let me show y'all this thread. I was looking at this thread earlier. And it's just people pretty much saying, and by the way, this is what they were saying about Skip Bayless. Look how they got Skip Bayless up on X. They said, this is Skip Bayless when he heard Shannon Sharpe got fired. Which I thought was hilarious. I don't think Skip is celebrating. Skip is competitive, though. Who knows, man? But that whole FS1 situation, we're going to get into that in a second, too. But people are reacting to this because Gilbert Arenas got arrested, which we're going to talk about later on. And people are saying Stephen A is really the cops. Stephen A looked like he wearing a wire on First Take. Stephen A to all his competition today. This little clip of Stephen A when he was acting. See if that'll play. Hold on. I want y'all to see that. That's when he was acting on ABC. And he shot the nurse or whatever. See that? They say Stephen A reportedly wearing a wire outside of ESPN. So you guys get the picture, right? Everybody's saying that Stephen A. Smith is the one selling everybody else out there. And I don't think that that's the case. I think in this situation, Shannon Sharpe did this to himself. And you guys let me know what you think in the chat. I think Shannon Sharpe did this to himself. These headlines are crazy. And I get that it's funny to make the jokes to, put Stephen A. Smith in these memes and different things like that. And it is funny to see it, But at the end of the day, and we're going to leave them on screen because I think it's funny, actually. But at the end of the day, this is something that Shannon Sharpe low-key did to himself. So let's get into what Stephen A. Smith said in response to all this. And I knew when Stephen A. said this that it was over for Shannon Sharpe. And he's going to be by the way, prepare yourselves because Stephen A. Smith is going to talk about this for the next month or two. He probably going to talk, well, maybe not a month, probably the next week or two. He's going to be talking about it because he knows what gets clicks. He understands the media company, the media game. He has his podcast. He may not talk about it on ESPN, but he definitely going to talk about it on his podcast for the next couple of days because this is what people want to hear. People want to hear this from Stephen A. Smith. So let's check out what he had to say and hear how he felt about this whole situation. Check it out.
Shannon Sharpe is somebody that I brought to ESPN. Works on First Take, which airs on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time.
See what I'm saying? Hey, shameless plug. He gonna make sure y'all know when First Take come on. Shameless plug.
He's been with me every Monday and Tuesday. We've been number one for 13 years and counting. But since Shannon has arrived, obviously he's helped the show immensely. And I can't thank him enough for it. We've grown close as friends. I'd like to believe that.
That's
I certainly root for him. I know he's been through a lot in life. He's overcome a lot of things. And when he departed from Fox, I was more than happy to bring him on board here. So all I can speak about is what I know based on the reports. And I can speak about ESPN and Disney. To be clear, even though this podcast, this YouTube show is owned and operated by me solely, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be dismissive of ESPN, who employs me in my daytime job on First Take. So I sit here before you today letting you know that they are aware that this is a subject that I was going to broach.
In other words, he letting y'all know that we went back to the ESPN and Disney offices. I went up there and I talked to him before I got permission to talk about this before anything happened. I told you guys, Stephen A. Smith is somebody that can be trusted by these companies. You know, for better or worse, however you feel about that, they like that, and that's worked out really well for him so far. Now, he said that Shannon Sharpe is a friend, and we're going to continue listening to what he have to say. He considers Shannon Sharpe a friend, but he also made it clear that we've been number one for 13 years, and Shannon just got here this year. And I think that was an important and intentional distinction that Stephen A. made. I think he was letting y'all know we're going to still be number one with or without him, but it would have been nice to have him. And it's kind of an embarrassing situation for him because it's like, I got to go walk in the office. Have anybody out there, anybody that's watching, have you been in a situation where you got somebody hired at your job, a friend or a family member? If this is you, say me in the chat. Have you ever got somebody hired and then they do something and make you look bad at the job? And now you always got to like, man, what's up with your boy or what's up with your girl? I've been in that situation. Say me in the chat if that's you. That's the same situation Stephen A. Smith is in when he's like, yo, I advocated for him to be up here. I thought Shannon was going to be my protege. I thought Shannon was going to be the one they give $100 million contract to. When my contract ends, I'm out of here. I go on to do my own thing or I go retire or whatever. And we just let Shannon Sharpe, because Shannon becomes a part of Stephen A.'s legacy at that point. Because Stephen A. has this legacy of he's always the only black guy in the room. And that's how people look at him. Bro, you always get the opportunity. You always the only one in the room that seems to get the opportunity. They trust you, but you don't look out for nobody. So if you pay attention, Stephen A. has consistently been trying to give brothers opportunities since that perception after the T.O. and Max Kellerman thing. So Shannon Sharpe was supposed to be that guy, even though he had his own thing built. And if you go back and listen to what Shannon said, Shannon made it clear that I was doing something without Stephen A. and ESPN before that too. That's why Shannon was saying, when I was on Undisputed, when I was on FS1, when I did what I did with Club Shay, like he's trying to make it like, bro, I'm a somebody too. But Stephen A. would have liked it to be framed had everything worked out that Shannon Sharpe is the little homie. And I brought him over here. We've been number one for 13 years. That's my little homie. I brought him over here, gave him an opportunity. Let's continue hearing what Stephen A. said. All these things are important, by the way. Let's continue listening.
Because I owe them that courtesy. With that being said, it's important to point out a couple of things. Number one, I was not there. I can provide no eyewitness account. And even though I got love and respect for Shannon Sharpe, and I'm sincerely hopeful and prayerful that he is completely innocent of the allegations that have been levied against him, I can't sit here and speak to his innocence or guilt from a knowledgeable place because I have nothing to do with this. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything. I don't even know this person. I know what the reports say. I know the reports, the things that have been reported on a multitude of outlets, from the AP to the New York Post to Forbes to TMZ and then everything in between. I mean, I can't even count the number of publications that have talked about it or written about it, networks, etc. It's all over the internet. It's everywhere. And I know that. I'm fully aware of that. This is not a criminal case. So there is no concern about him going to jail. This is a civil case, which means that he can either be found liable or not liable. The accuser in question is seeking $50 million. That was confirmed by Shannon Sharpe on that video today. According to the reports, it's somebody that he met in.
If you have a 700 plus credit
My bad, we got a little ad. I want to hear this. So somebody in the chat says Stephen A. Smith should have stood 10 toes down behind Shannon and supported him. Either you're a friend or you're not. I kind of agree with that. Man. I think either you a homie or you not. And it's like the framing that he puts it under, like, oh, I can't confirm or deny. I don't know. I wasn't there. I know what the reports say, but I don't know for real what's going on. That's like backhanded. Like, bro, is you the homie or you not? You supposed to get up there, because when we saw what Stephen A. Smith did with Jay-Z when Jay-Z had the allegation, Jay-Z would never do this. He's not this guy. Whatever Stephen A was saying. But when it was Shannon Sharpe, it was like, bro, I don't know. Like, that indicates to me behind the scenes, you see some weird, freaky things with Shannon Sharpe. Possibly. That's how it comes off. That's what it feels like. It's like when Diddy got caught up, when Jay-Z got caught up, everybody was like, nah, Jay would never do this. But when Diddy got caught up, people was like, I don't know, bro. And I don't know if Stephen A. Smith has seen Shannon Sharpe do some things with coworkers or whatever. We're going to get into that in a second because I got some reports that I want to share with you guys about some allegations that Shannon Sharpe has faced before all this. And I'm going to show you guys what was said. But it don't seem like Stephen A. got his back the way, the way we would have hoped or we would have kind of expected him to in this situation. Let's keep going. Oh, my bad.
Particular moment in time. According to some audio that was put out earlier today by attorney Busby,
that audio hurt Shannon Sharpe.
The accuser, the female, talking to somebody who is alleged to be Shannon Sharpe. We don't know whether that's true or not. And the person in question, again, we don't know whether it's Shannon or not, the words choke, as in I will choke the hell out of you if I saw you.
By the way, I want you guys to remember that. Remember that audio where Shannon Sharpe said to that girl that she would choke, he would choke the hell out of her. And I also want you guys to keep in mind while we listening to this, that Stephen A. Smith went to the Disney bosses and the ESPN bosses before he said all this. And before he's telling us all this, he already talked about what he was going to say with them. So, and I'm saying that why that's important to remember while we listen to this is because the things that he said to them is the thing, or the things that he's saying to us and letting us hear are the things that they're discussing in them offices. So it's giving us some type of indicator on why Shannon Sharpe got fired. What the real is. It's not that he's guilty or innocent. They don't care about him being guilty or innocent. Stephen A. Smith just said it. We don't even know if he's guilty or innocent. But the audio of him saying this, and when he said the audio was put out, and the way Shannon Sharpe responded to everything. Like, yeah, there's a 10-minute video. Put it out. Bro, what is you doing? No, don't put it out. That's ruining your situation. Like, the brand is being tarnished if you put that stuff out. Not just Shannon Sharpe's. The public will probably overlook it. But you're talking about ESPN and Disney. So let's let Stephen A. continue. Just keep those things in mind.
And so because of that, knowing that audio was probably going to come out along with additional tapes, whether they be video or audio is unclear at this particular moment in time, Shannon Sharpe felt compelled to come out in his own defense. How we interpret that? Let me be very, very clear about where I'm coming from. I'm a bit torn in terms of his response. On one hand, Tony Busby has sued Jay-Z. He did sue Diddy. He did accuse them, or represented the woman who was accusing them of assault, of sexual assault, and said that she was 13 years of age at the time when talking about Jay-Z and Diddy, and Jay-Z went ballistic and emphatically denied it, wouldn't let it go. The case was dropped, and now he's suing Busby, mentioning words like extortion and other things. So when Shannon Sharpe brought up Mr. Busby in that video that we aired and talked about him being extorted, he brought up Mr. Busby and Mr. Busby's past. And he talked about him, going against African-American men. There's two thoughts there. On one hand, there's the Jay-Z, who obviously should be presumed innocent, not just because you should be presumed innocent until found guilty, but because of the manner in which he fought on his own behalf and has been very aggressive in going after Tony Busby.
He just trying to justify why he defended Jay-Z so hard. To be real, Bro, you just trying to justify why you defended Jay-Z so hard and why you ain't got Shannon Sharpe back the same way with the same vigor and the same intensity that you got Jay. Because Jay did it like this and Jay did it like, nah, bro. It's because you value the relationship with Jay more than you value the relationship with Shannon Sharpe. And with Shannon Sharpe, it was business. And with Jay, you know, you want some friendship there and you feel like Jay can be a little bit more beneficial in the future, probably. Because Jay got that casino coming. And he over there with Fanatics and they doing business. And that's a whole different conversation. And you might need Jay's support one day. But all of it just, let's let him continue.
In the case of P. Diddy, you don't know what to believe. Again, the case against Jay-Z was a civil suit. Diddy was a civil suit. But in Diddy, you don't know what to believe because of all the allegations he's facing. But we can't forget that Tony Busby was also the person that represented at least 24 of the 27 women that accused Deshaun Watson of sexual misconduct along with other allegations. And at least 23 of those cases were settled.
Mm-hmm. See, it's the settlement part. It's the settlement part. When you start talking about settling, that's what it make Shannon Sharpe look bad, man. You settled a RAPE lawsuit, bro. Not won, not got dismissed, settled.
Shouldn't have mentioned that. So on one hand, going on the offensive to defend himself, I completely understand where Shannon Sharpe is coming from. On the other hand, when his legal team issued out the press release on X yesterday, and they spoke about, they mentioned her name, and they revealed some of those explicit text messages, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a strategy that would work.
Mm-hmm.
One of the hardest things in the world for all of us to do is to just lay low and be quiet. And let our legal team do it. And we don't always know whether or not that's the right thing to do. I know, and I can tell you all that I spoke to Shannon, not in details, but I spoke to him, and he emphatically proclaims his innocence. According to Mr. Busby, his client emphatically proclaims his guilt. So where does that leave us? I'd love to tell you that I know the answer to that question, but I don't. I am the executive producer of First Take on ESPN. I recruited Shannon. I went and got him and brought him to ESPN. But I'm not the boss. Those are other folks. There are layers to this, and there are certain layers even I am not on. I can tell you, I also spoke to co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro.
Hit that like button.
Who made it very, very clear. We are taking this matter very seriously. And we are looking into this very, very closely. And once we gather.
He spoke to the Disney bosses. He spoke to Shannon Sharpe. He spoke on the situation. He going to keep speaking on the situation, man. We're going to hear a lot more from Stephen A. Smith. But the problem that Shannon Sharpe is facing is not just that there's these allegations. And I know people are making the jokes like we got the Stephen A. Smith cop meme. You know, we got the Stephen A. Smith. Y'all remember this scene? And, you know, we get in the memes. But in reality, Shannon Sharpe did this to himself. You know, and I know Stephen A. got a reputation over there at ESPN. Like you always the boss when it looked good, and then you're not the boss when it's time to look bad in the public. You always want to put it on ESPN and Disney. And some people feel that way. I think Stephen A. Smith doing his job. He doing what he's supposed to do in them situations. He don't always say or do the right thing, but none of us do. None of us do. But at the end of the day, Shannon Sharpe did this to himself. If you remember, or maybe some of us have lost our memory on this because, time goes by and we forget these stories. But there was when Shannon Sharpe was working with Skip Bayless, it was reported that he was accused of choking a female Fox employee back then. Do you guys remember this report? The headline was Shannon Sharpe accused of choking a female Fox employee. And this came back up after this lawsuit that he's going through with this girl right here. And it's because, and if you remember, I told you guys earlier, just a few minutes ago, remember the choking part where he said, I'm going to choke the hell out of you on that audio. Shannon Sharpe said that to the girl that was suing him. By the way, there's something to be said about him messing with this 19-year-old girl, but that's a whole nother thing. And the report said that according to Ryan Glaspiegill, I don't know how to say his last name, of frontofficesports.com, there was a prior incident. It was reported that during Shannon Sharpe's time at FS1, Fox Sports 1, he was accused of choking a female production assistant in the workplace. That kind of stuff contributes to the decisions that Fox, that ESPN and Disney are going to make when we talk about him getting fired. That's a contributing factor, bro. You have a history of doing certain things that's not supposed to be done, like this. The reporter added that one source said Shannon Sharpe and Fox settled with the accuser for several hundred thousands of dollars. So the lawsuit wasn't filed. So behind the scenes, it was settled. That's right in line with how the reports came out that Shannon Sharpe tried to settle with this accuser for like $10 million before it came out publicly, and she put it out publicly. So he tried to settle behind the scenes with her, and he had a situation back then. Now, Shannon Sharpe's representation responded to this and said there was no incident of choking involving Shannon on the FS1 set. On one occasion, he and a few colleagues were involved in some light physical interaction in a playful context. This is Shannon Sharpe's team responding to that. It said Fox Sports later chose to resolve the matter privately. For further details, we recommend contacting Fox directly. Basically, we're not going to say nothing else about it. Right? And let me see. There was another report about this, actually. Here it is. Let's see if they gave any extra information about this. I don't think so. But the point is, you had incidents in the past, bro. You have incidents in the past with these big TV networks, these big sports TV networks. And ESPN is going to take all that into account when we talk about keeping you or bringing you back or letting you go. I knew when he said that he was stepping down from ESPN, that was forced. Like they wasn't bringing you back, bro. You had no choice. You know what I'm saying? You had no choice. You was always going to be in a situation where you was at the mercy of them saying you can come back or saying that you can't. And that's just what it is. I don't think people should blame Stephen A. Smith for this situation. I think this is something that's completely caused by Shannon Sharpe. Now, on another level, we have to talk about, well, what can we learn from this, right? So let's get into our community hour. And this is where we do the last half of the live stream. And I read the chat, see what you guys think. And I also talk about this from a perspective that we all can learn something from, right? And here's the thing. Let me see what y'all saying in the chat real quick. Salute to Terry, one of the members of the channel. If you're a member of the channel, we put your comment on screen. Become a member of the channel if you want us to put your comment on screen. It said, Two-Face Stephen A. with all athletes, LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes. What a friend. See, where Shannon Sharpe didn't just wake up and make a bad decision. Every time we see one of these things happen, it was a series of bad decisions, one after the other. It's never just one thing. It's always, okay, it started like this, then it got comfortable, then you started doing this, then you started doing that. Like this whole situation, it didn't start just because he wanted to start dating this you think does anybody believe that this 19-year-old girl that sued Shannon is the only 19-year-old little white girl that he ever been with? How comfortable do you have to get doing this type of stuff where she's recording you at this point because she can predict that you're going to say something that you're not supposed to say or something like that? That's how far it has gone. And my grandma used to say all sins start with she used to break it down like this. She would say, how did grandma say it? Like it was your thoughts. It was first your thoughts. Then it was was it words? She would say like it's your words first, then it's your thoughts. Then your thoughts, your words become your thoughts become your habits become your actions. Or here we go. Your words become your thoughts. Watch what you say because your words become your thoughts become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your character. That's how my grandma used to say it. You get into a habit of doing things, and then that just becomes who you are. That's something we all can learn from. He didn't just wake up and just, this is the first time I was messing with one of these girls and I got caught up. Nah, bro. Nah. You've been doing this. And it just finally caught up to you. You living outside of what you're supposed to be doing with the blessings. And living outside of the awareness. Oh, what happened? Hold on. Hold on. We had to change cams. I don't know what happened. Maybe the camera died or something. You living outside the awareness of who you're supposed to be. You know, when you get those big blessings, you got to manage them properly, man. That's a part of having the blessing. It's not just for you to just do what you want with. It's for you to manage them properly. He didn't manage the blessings properly. And it's just as simple as that, man. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Said, rumor has it Shannon replied he was upset that his issues overshadowed his brother. Yeah, we already played that earlier in the stream. Said Stephen A was going to retire until he saw the amount of money ESPN gave Shannon. Now he says, nope, I want that 100 million. I got to compete with Shannon. Said SMH, Stephen A is a flipper. Maybe Stephen A said like, oh man, $100 million? Kidding me? Let me get a piece of that. But he just got a big contract too. But maybe he like, man, let me get one more contract before I get up out of here. Somebody said the optics don't look good. So of course he's going to get fired. Yeah. It's all about branding, man. When you talk about brand, everybody got a brand. Everybody has a personal brand. You watching this, you have a personal brand. You may not realize it, but you do. And your personal brand may just be something as small as this person shows up for work late. Everybody got one, though. Everybody. And Shannon seems to have built the brand for himself behind the scenes of he liked these young girls. He a little bit reckless, just based on the other incidents that have been reported about was something about him choking this female assistant, other things about, you guys remember when Skip Bayless was making fun of Shannon Sharpe, like insinuating that Shannon Sharpe was sleeping with other women. Then the report about the FS1 with Joy Taylor and all that other stuff that was going on, where everybody was doing that freaky stuff behind the scenes. They was calling it Freak Sports 1, FS1, Freak Sports 1. So, in that situation, Shannon Sharpe was accused of sleeping with a makeup girl or something like that. Everybody has to be aware of their brand. And he's built, like I said, the things that he's done have become a habit and they've become attached to his character. If he was Stephen A. Smith, he probably could have survived this because Stephen A. has no blemishes on his record in terms of what he's, not done or what he's done. Or like Stephen A. Smith don't have no allegations or no scandals out there. So if he would have got caught up with this, maybe they would have kept him and said, we're going to let it play out. But it's kind of if you guys remember what happened with Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin had a brand of being a kind of a wild boy. So when he had them allegations, what ESPN do? Sat him to the side, put him on the bench, even though he was 100% innocent. his reputation preceded him, though. So it mattered. That's business. It's something to consider. It's always something that you got to be aware of, because it's not friendship. No matter how much the contract is, and no matter how cool they seem when you walk in the office, they always going to do what's best for business. Somebody said by paying the lawsuit, I believe he lied about certain things that warrant their actions. Like he said, though, we all make mistakes. But if it was anyone else, he'd be on them hard. Just saying, yeah, that's true. I agree. If it was Ocho that had these allegations, Shannon Sharpe would be going crazy, talking crazy. If it was somebody else, Shannon Sharpe would be going crazy on them. You messing up your life. You doing this. You have to. He blew it. He blew it. He would be saying all kind of stuff. So, to be fair, that is a good point. And I do think that there is something that Shannon Sharpe did not want the public to see, which is why he settled. But settling is almost, to the public at least, it's like an admission of guilt. To Shannon, it's like, I just want to get this done so I can get this contract. The contract was gone as soon as the report came out, though. Something we all got to be aware of is our personal brands. All of us. Be aware of how you perceived in the world. What's a brand? Now, I teach this to our clients. A brand is the associations and disassociations people draw when they hear your name. It's very different than just having a username or a logo. The brand is what people associate you with and what they don't associate you with, what they disassociate you with. Some of us out there, like I said, we're associated with showing up to work late. Some of us associated with showing up to work early. Some of us are associated with working hard. Some of us are not. Some of us are associated with consistency. Like, everybody has something. And unfortunately for Shannon Sharpe, whatever his brand is behind the scenes, it wasn't strong enough for them to keep him. And I do agree that if he was in Stephen A. Smith's seat or somebody else's seat and he was just commentating on this situation, he would be going crazy, calling them all type of idiots, fools. And he made a huge fumble, because this situation could have played out a lot different. And the fact that he tried to settle, I think that there was I don't think he did what this girl is accusing him of, but I do think that behind the scenes there was something that he didn't want the public to know, because he tried to settle before it even came out for $10 million. That ain't no light money. Tried to settle before, like, I'm gonna give you $10 million just for it to never come out. Now I understand trying to protect the $100 million bag that we got coming later on. But, I do think, to your point, by paying the lawsuit, you said by paying the lawsuit, I believe he lied about certain things that warrant their actions. It looks like that. It's the optics. It's the optics. Said Shannon did this to himself. The woman was young and he should have stayed in his own lane. Yeah, that's another part of this. 19 years old, dog. At you 54, it's disgusting, bro. I'm 31. I don't even, a 19-year-old look like a kid to me. Bro, you're 19. I'm 31 and I look at that like you're a little girl. You have nothing to offer me. Not even like to have her talking to you. I don't know. It's just, some of these dudes are just weird. That's all I got on this topic, man. I hope that you guys enjoyed the content. Remember, as a caveat and something to take for yourself, remember that every day you walk into the world with a personal brand, every day you walk out there and you putting out things that, people are going to perceive you for being. So whatever you associated with, whatever you're not associated with, it all matters. And you don't know what's going to affect you in the future. The final count on the poll, does Shannon Sharpe deserve to be fired? The poll we got in the chat, 58% of people say yes, 42% of people say no. And I think I'm rocking with the 58%. I think he deserved to be fired because you wasn't aware. And this is not a one-time behavior. This is and I'm not saying that he was guilty. I'm just saying that he has there was a series of bad decisions that led up to this moment. And I'm sure that at some point he knew this was inappropriate and he probably shouldn't be doing this, but he kept doing it. And if you play with fire, you get burned. I can't feel bad for you. That's just what it is, man. And to the homie in the chat, to your point, which was a great point, if it was anybody else in this seat, Shannon Sharpe would be saying they deserve to be fired, which is probably why he has peace with it. That's all I got for you guys. Urban Legend with Evans. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you ain't subscribed so you could be in the chat on the next live stream. And I'll see you guys on tomorrow's live stream. God bless.